AITA for trusting an unhoused man who warned me not to go home tonight. I trusted a stranger on the street and discovered the real danger was in my own family. I watched my hand tremble as I held out the $10 bill. Same routine, same corner, the same man wrapped in that filthy green coat, smelling of rain and desperation. But this time, his fingers closed around my wrist. "You have been too good," he whispered. "Do not go home tonight. Stay in a hotel. Tomorrow, I will show you why." His eyes were not cloudy or distant, as I expected. They were sharp, attentive, almost military-like, the eyes of someone who had seen things and learned to catalog them. "What are you talking about?" I tried to pull my arm away, but his grip remained firm, not aggressive, but urgent. "Please, trust me. I have been watching your house for 3 weeks. You are in danger. Real danger." My heart hammered in my chest. This was crazy. I had been leaving him money for 3 months, ever since Grace died. Guilt compelled me to act, to do anything that felt like kindness in a world that had taken everything from me. Every Tuesday and Friday, sometimes a $20 bill if I had had a good day. "Who are you?" "Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., right here." He slowly, deliberately, released my wrist. "I will explain everything. Just, please, do not go home tonight." I stumbled back. My briefcase nearly slipped from my hand. My fingers were numb. He leaned back against the library wall and pulled the green coat tighter, transforming back into just another invisible person on the sidewalk. But those eyes stayed on me. 3 months earlier, I had buried my wife, Grace, 34 years old, killed by a drunk driver at 9:15 p.m. on a Tuesday while she was going to pick up my prescription from the pharmacy. She had texted me at 9:12 p.m., "Almost there. Want ice cream?" I replied, "Always." She never got to buy that ice cream. The grief therapist, Dr. Elaine Sutton, a licensed clinical psychologist with 17 years of experience in trauma, told me the guilt was normal, that my brain would look for ways I could have prevented it. A different time, a different pharmacy. If I had gone instead of her. "You cannot rewrite the past," Dr. Sutton said in our 4th session. "You can only choose how you move forward." So, I started giving money to the man in front of the library. It felt like the smallest act of kindness in a universe that had shown me none. Every Tuesday and Friday after work, before going back to an empty house that still smelled of Grace's lavender shampoo. He never asked. Most days he did not even look up, just accepted the bills with a slight nod and a mumbled, "God bless." I did not know his name, nor did I want to. It was easier that way. A transactional kindness that let me sleep at night. But Victor, Grace's brother, had noticed. "You still doing that?" he asked 2 weeks ago, watching from his car as I handed over a $20 bill. "Owen, man, you need to stop letting people take advantage of your grief." Victor Hale, Grace's older brother, investment banker, twice divorced, the family's success story. He had shown up at the funeral in a $3,000 suit and gave the eulogy that made everyone cry. He had been helpful after Grace's death. A little too helpful, perhaps. Organizing documents, handling insurance papers, helping to clear Grace's desk because I could not touch her things without falling apart. I gave him the keys to my house. I told Dr. Sutton about this last week. "Is that weird?" He said, "You should not be alone during this difficult transition." Those were his words. Dr. Sutton jotted something in her notepad. "And how does that make you feel? And how did Grace feel about Victor?" I paused, trying to remember. She rarely spoke of him. That should have been a red flag. I checked into the Holiday Inn on Morrison Street at 8:47 p.m., feeling like a complete idiot. The receptionist, her name tag reading Natalie, gave me a look that said she had seen worse. Just for one night? Just one. The room smelled of industrial cleaner and the regrets of previous guests. I sat on the edge of the bed, my briefcase beside me, and stared at my phone. This was madness. I was taking advice from a man on the street who had grabbed my wrist and made cryptic warnings like something out of a bad thriller. Tomorrow, I would go back, apologize for being weird, and maybe try to help him find a shelter or social services or something. My phone vibrated at 11:47 p.m., unknown number. "Your security system just went offline. Thought you should know. Victor." I read the text 3 times. Victor had the login information for my security system. I had given it to him 2 months ago when he offered to check on the house while I visited Grace's parents in Sacramento. But why would he be checking it at 11:47 p.m. on a random Thursday? My blood ran cold. I called him. Straight to voicemail. Hi, this is Victor. Leave a message. I hung up and called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I called the police non-emergency line. The dispatcher, all business, said they would send a car for a welfare check, but could not enter without probable cause. It is my house, I said. I am the owner. Can you get there to check on it personally, sir? I am not home. Then we will dispatch an officer to do a drive-by and confirm there are no visible signs of a break-in or anything out of the ordinary. I stayed on the line until Officer Alvarez of the Portland Police, badge 2847, confirmed the house looked normal from the outside. Lights off, no vehicle in the driveway. The security system panel was reading as offline, but that could be an equipment malfunction. Does anyone else have access to your residence? Officer Alvarez asked. I hesitated. My brother-in-law. He has keys. Have you tried contacting him? He is not answering. There was a brief pause. Sir, if you believe someone may be in your home without permission, we would need you to go there to confirm and file a report, or for there to be a reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. No, it is fine. Thank you, officer. I hung up and sat in the dark hotel room until dawn, watching the shadows move across the ceiling. The man was on his feet when I arrived at 6:52 a.m. No, not just standing, waiting. He had shaved. The coat was folded neatly beside a backpack I had never noticed before. He wore a faded Portland Trail Blazers t-shirt and jeans that had seen better days, but they were not the rags I had imagined. My name is Raymond Knox, he said. Former detective, Portland Police Bureau. 23 years of service, badge 1847. Retired in 2019. I just stared, speechless. He pulled out a worn leather wallet and flipped it open. An official Portland Police badge. Detective Raymond Knox. The photo showed a younger version of him. Clean-shaven, military haircut, sharp eyes. Lost my pension in the divorce, Raymond continued, his voice different now. Clear, authoritative. My ex-wife's lawyer was better than mine. Lost the house, too. After that, I lost the will to fight. He closed the wallet carefully. But I never lost my instincts. What does that have to do with your brother-in-law being in your house 4 times in the last 2 weeks? Always at night. Always when you are working late. Raymond pulled out a newer phone than I would have expected, a Samsung Galaxy. I started documenting it the second time. I knew something was wrong. I tried to report it before, he added, but nobody takes a man experiencing homelessness seriously without hard proof. He handed me the phone. Security camera footage, grainy but unmistakable. Victor, in my living room. Timestamp, 2:34 a.m. The living room light was on, and a small external camera positioned discreetly at the window captured everything. He was going through Grace's antique desk, the cherrywood one her grandmother had left her. He was wearing gloves. How did you? I sleep over there, Raymond said, pointing behind me to the doorway of a closed-down used bookstore across the street. My stomach sank. Last night was different, Raymond went on, his jaw tight. He brought 2 other men. They disabled the security system from the external panel. I recorded all of it. He swiped to other videos. Victor and 2 men I had never seen. One carried tools, the other held a flashlight. Timestamp, 11:52 p.m. 5 minutes after Victor's text to me. He is looking for something, Raymond said quietly. Documents. Legal papers, most likely. Insurance policies, deeds. Your wife had money, didn't she? The trust fund. Grace's grandmother had died when she was 16 and left her $847,000 in a trust fund that became available when Grace turned 30. We had never touched it. Grace wanted to use it for our future kids' college, or maybe a vacation home when we retired. Victor knew about it. He had made a joke at Grace's 30th birthday party about how she was officially rich now and could not forget her broke older brother. Grace had laughed, but squeezed my hand hard under the table. He thinks I do not know about it, I whispered. The fund. We kept it in a separate account. Grace handled everything. I do not even know the login details. Raymond nodded slowly. He is planning to forge documents. Make it look like she left the money to him before she died, or that you 2 agreed to split the estate assets and you are too grief-stricken to remember clearly. He handed me a small flash drive. It is all here. The videos, the timestamps, the audio from last week when I got close enough to record him on the phone with someone, talking about settling this before probate closes. my vision blurred with rage. Why? My voice broke. Raymond was silent for a long moment. Because I spent 23 years watching people steal from each other. And when I lost everything, nobody helped me. He looked away. Maybe I cannot fix my own life, but I can still do this. An old contact of his, a lawyer, was direct. We have enough material. Victoria Lang, a partner at Lang & Associates. 15 years specializing in estate law. She had handled Grace's grandmother's trust fund originally and helped us update our wills 2 years prior. This is fraud. Attempted fraud, at the very least. Breaking and entering. Conspiracy. He spread printed screenshots across her conference room table. He was not part of the conversation, I said. Victor was on the phone. It happened in a public space where there was no reasonable expectation of privacy. The sidewalk in front of your house. Victoria made a note. We can work with that. Besides, you have video evidence of unauthorized entry with clear criminal tools. That is more than enough for the district attorney. Detective Monica Reed, 18 years with the Portland Police Bureau, currently assigned to white-collar crimes, agreed. She sat across from me in Interrogation Room C at Central Precinct, reviewing Raymond's footage on her laptop. Your brother-in-law is an idiot, she said bluntly. These types document everything themselves. Texts, calls, videos. They think they are smarter than the system. She looked up. Do you want to press charges? Yes. I thought of Grace, of how she always said Victor was complicated, how she never wanted him staying in our house for more than a few hours, how she made me promise to keep the fund information secret. He stole my wife's keys from the funeral home, I said quietly. That is how he first got in the house. While she was lying in her casket, he went through her purse. Detective Reed's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Then yes, she said. We will arrest him. But I wanted more than an arrest. I wanted Victor to feel what I felt, watching someone you trusted destroy everything. So I called him. Hey, Victor, I need help with some of Grace's paperwork. The bank needs signatures for the trust fund transfer, and I am completely lost. Can you come by Saturday morning, maybe around 10? His voice was warm, concerned. The same voice he used at the funeral. Of course, Owen. Anything you need, brother. I will be there. Grace hated it when he called me that. You are not brothers, she had once said, annoyed. He barely spoke to you before we got married. At the time, I thought she was being unfair. Now I understood. On Saturday morning, I cleaned the house. I vacuumed, did the dishes, made coffee, and set out the good mugs, the ones Grace had bought in Seattle on our honeymoon. At 9:45 a.m., Raymond arrived. He had borrowed clothes from someone, khaki pants and a pressed blue button-down shirt that almost fit. He had shaved again and looked almost respectable. You did not have to do this, I said. Yes, I did. Raymond checked the small camera he had placed on the bookshelf. It is all recording, audio and video. Detective Reed has a unit parked 2 blocks away. Victoria Lang arrived at 9:52 a.m. with a leather briefcase full of documents. Right behind her came Officer Kevin Lynn, an 8-year patrol veteran. He positioned himself near the kitchen entrance, out of immediate sight, but close enough. Remember, Victoria said in a low voice. Let him incriminate himself. Ask questions. Let him explain. Do not confront him until we have what we need. My hands would not stop shaking. Victor knocked on the door at exactly 10 a.m. I opened it, and there he was. The same concerned expression he had worn at Grace's funeral. The same smooth voice, pressed slacks, and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly house payment. Hey, Owen. How are you holding up? Better some days. I stepped aside. Thanks for coming. Of course, brother. Anything you need. He walked past me into the living room and froze. Victoria was sitting at the dining table. The officer stood near the kitchen. Raymond was on the sofa, hands clasped. The color drained from Victor's face. What is going on? Sit down, Victor. My voice was calmer than I felt. Owen, what? Sit down. He sat slowly, his eyes darting from one stranger to the next. I remained standing. Victor, how many times have you been in this house when I was not here? I have not. What are you talking about? Owen, this does not make sense. I was here to help you with paperwork, like you asked. At 2 a.m.? At 6 a.m. Islands. At 11:52 p.m. last Thursday with 2 men I have never seen. His jaw tightened. I do not know what you think you saw. Victoria slid a folder across the table. Video evidence, timestamped logs, audio recordings, and the testimony of a former Portland police detective who documented your illegal entries over the course of 17 days. Victor looked at Raymond. Really looked at him. Recognition finally dawned. You, his voice faltered. You are just some person on the corner. Ex-Detective Raymond Knox, badge 1847. 23 years of service, Raymond said, his voice low and steady. And I have seen enough criminals in my career to recognize one when he is sitting right in front of me. Victor's hands gripped the arms of the chair. This is insane, Owen. I am family. I am Grace's brother. I have been helping you. Helping yourself, I countered. To Grace's trust fund. The one whose documents you have been searching for 3 weeks. Is not that the same fund you discussed on the phone outside this house with someone? About getting it all settled before probate closes? We have that recording. Victor lunged forward. You cannot record me without my consent. There is no reasonable expectation of privacy on a public sidewalk, Victoria said. And while Oregon is a one-party consent state for recordings, this case falls under the public space exception. And then there is the video evidence of you entering with lockpicks and disabling the security system. That constitutes several felonies. The officer stepped forward. Mr. Hale, I need you to stand up and place your hands behind your back. Victor shot out of his chair. Owen, you're going to let them do this? To family? Grace would be disgusted. Grace told me to keep the fund information secret. I replied quietly. 2 weeks before she died, she told me she did not trust you, that you had always been jealous of her, that you would eventually ask me for money, and that I should say no. The words hit him like a punch. She never said that. Victor's face contorted. She was a liar. Always was. Always thought she was better than me. She was, I said. The officer moved in with the handcuffs. Mr. Hale, you have the right to remain silent. Victor lunged. Not at me, but at the folder, at the evidence. The officer caught him mid-motion and slammed him face first onto the dining table. The sound of his cheek hitting the wood was a dry, strangely satisfying thud. You think you are so smart. Victor yelled, his voice muffled against the table as the officer twisted his arms behind his back and snapped the cuffs on. You think that man's testimony is worth anything? You think anyone is going to believe this? Detective Reed will be taking your statement downtown, Victoria said calmly, along with your phone, your computer, and your financial records. We have already filed for a restraining order and an emergency freeze on any accounts linked to Grace's estate. Victor struggled as the officer pulled him to his feet. His face was red, a vein pulsing in his temple. Spittle flew as he screamed. This is a mistake. I will sue you. I will ruin you. Grace would have wanted me to have that money. She told me so herself. When? I asked quietly. What? When did she tell you that? He blinked, confused. Grace died on September 14th. When, exactly, did she tell you she wanted you to have the trust fund? Victor's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Last year, he finally said. Last summer. We were in Italy last summer, I replied. June 10th to July 2nd, for our anniversary. I pulled out my phone and showed him the pictures. Grace in front of the Colosseum. Grace eating gelato in Florence. Grace laughing in our Venice hotel room. Day after day, the lie crumbled on his face. The officer pushed him toward the door. Let us go. Victor struggled, twisting his body, his shoulder hitting the door jamb, and he howled. I am family. You cannot do this to family. You stole her keys from the funeral home, I said. My voice did not shake. While she was dead, while I was signing cremation papers, you went through her purse and took her house keys. He stopped struggling. The funeral director told me someone had been in the room. They thought it was me, but I never left the office. I was too broken to even look at her one last time. Victor's eyes blazed, not with remorse, but with hatred. You have always been weak, he spat. Grace knew it. She married you because you were safe, boring, easy to control. The officer shoved him out. That is enough. Still, Victor kept screaming as he was dragged down the porch steps, shouting about injustice, family betrayal, lawyers, lawsuits, and how I would regret this. The squad car door slammed shut, muffling his voice. I stood in the doorway, watching the car drive away. My legs felt weak, my chest tight. Victoria touched my shoulder. You did the right thing. I feel sick. That is normal. She handed me a business card. Dr. Sutton's office. She works with trauma therapy. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I already had Dr. Sutton's card, but I took that one anyway. Raymond was packing up his camera equipment when I went back inside. What now? I asked. Detective Reed will process everything. The district attorney will decide on the charges. Could be breaking and entering, attempted fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. If he tried to access any accounts. Raymond zipped up his bag. With the evidence we have, he is looking at prison time. And you? I asked. Raymond paused. What about me? What do you need? Money, housing. I can help. I do not need charity. It is not charity. It is payment. I crossed my arms. You saved me from losing everything Grace left behind. You gave me proof when I had nothing. That is worth more than a few bucks on a street corner. Raymond was silent for a long moment. There is a veterans shelter program that helps former law enforcement get back on their feet. Been on the wait list for 4 months. What is the name of the program? Portland Shield Initiative. It is run by a Captain Diane Sutton, ex-Marine. Dr. Elaine Sutton, the grief therapist, had told me about her sister's work. I found the number. Let me make a call. 3 months later, Victor pleaded guilty to breaking and entering, attempted fraud, and conspiracy to commit identity theft. 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, full restitution, payment of legal fees, and a permanent restraining order. His lawyer tried to argue grief and family loyalty as mitigating factors. The judge, the Honorable Judge Cynthia Bishop, with 23 years on the bench, was not moved. Your sister had just died, the judge said, looking down at Victor over her reading glasses. And your reaction was to steal from her grieving husband. That is not grief. That is predatory. Victor did not look at me during the sentencing, just stared at his hands as the bailiff led him away. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no sense of justice, just exhaustion. Detective Reed met me outside the courthouse. We recovered documents he forged. Power of attorney with Grace's signature, transfer forms. He had been setting this up for months before she died. We cannot prove it, but based on the templates we found on his computer, my stomach turned. He was planning this while she was still alive, preparing his contingencies. Detective Reed's expression darkened. People like him always have a plan B. Raymond got into the Portland Shield Initiative program 2 weeks after Victor's arrest. I visited him in his new apartment, a studio in southeast Portland. Small, but clean. He had his old police commendations hanging on the wall. You did not have to pull strings, he said. I did not, I replied. I just told Captain Sutton what you did. The decision was hers. Raymond pointed to a coffee maker. Want some coffee? Sure. We sat at his small kitchen table and drank terrible instant coffee. He had started working security at a local community center. 20 hours a week, enough to pay the rent, buy food, and rebuild his life. One shift at a time. Thank you, I said finally. You have already thanked me. No, I mean, for trusting yourself, your instincts, for not giving up on who you were. Raymond stared into his cup. Some days I wanted to. It was easier to just disappear. But you did not. He looked up. No. I shook my head. No. Comment. This story really makes you think about the power of small, consistent acts of kindness. The main character wasn't trying to save the world. Instead, he was simply showing a little compassion to someone everyone else overlooked. In the end, that simple decency was returned in the most unexpected way, reminding us never to judge a person by their current situation. It's a beautiful lesson in recognizing the dignity in every person, and it shows how a little humanity can truly change everything. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.